On NATO's eastern frontier, something massive is rising. Not just bunkers and trenches, but a new chapter in Europe's defense playbook. Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania aren't waiting for permission or predicting peace. They're building the Baltic Defense Line. But what does this say about the future of warfare, and how close are we to seeing history repeat itself? For years, nestled along NATO's vulnerable eastern flank, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania have watched with quiet intensity as the tides of geopolitics shifted around them. Now, confronted by what they see as escalating threats from the east, these three Baltic nations have cast silence aside and launched one of the most ambitious defensive initiatives in Europe since the end of the Cold War, the Baltic Defense Line. What began as a regional security conversation has evolved into a full-scale fortress-building campaign. Hundreds of concrete bunkers, anti-tank ditches, fortified supply points, and layered defensive trenches are rapidly materializing across the shared borders with Russia and Belarus. At its core lies a simple truth. These nations, once part of the Soviet Union, now stand on the front lines of NATO, determined never to return to the shadows of Moscow's influence. Estonia, in particular, has emerged as the driving force behind the initiative. With a sweeping multi-billion-euro defense budget increase and a pivot toward modernized warfare tactics, including drone deployments, AI-supported surveillance, and coordinated stockpiling of mines, it is reshaping its landscape in preparation not just for a war they hope never comes, but for one they believe might be inevitable. The urgency is born not of vague speculation, but hard experience. In 2003, Georgia's Rose Revolution sent tremors through the post-Soviet sphere. Then came the 2014 annexation of Crimea, an audacious geopolitical strike that marked a sobering moment for the Baltic capitals. In the years that followed, Russia's deepening involvement in eastern Ukraine transformed distant concern into palpable fear. NATO's own simulations painted a worrying picture. Exercises revealed that, in the event of a full-scale attack, Baltic capitals could fall within 60 hours. That chilling timeframe exposed glaring strategic vulnerabilities. Most notable among them, the Suwalki Gap, a sliver of land between Poland and Lithuania that acts as NATO's physical lifeline to the Baltic region. If severed, it would effectively isolate Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania from Western reinforcements. Faced with these grim forecasts, the Baltic Defense Line was conceived not as a final solution, but as a deterrent of time and complexity. A matrix of layered obstacles intended to delay, frustrate, and ultimately complicate any potential Russian advance long enough for NATO's might to arrive. The logic is clear. Full-scale parity with the Russian military is economically impossible for the smaller Baltic nations, but terrain, ingenuity, and resolve can become force multipliers. By saturating vulnerable zones with calculated fortifications, these countries aim to shape any battlefield confrontation into an endurance test, buying time while denying Russia the swift conquest it might expect. Yet the ambition of the project transcends military engineering. Estonia has pushed hard to integrate defense preparedness into the cultural and civic fabric of the nation. Mandatory conscription continues to operate. Military training is increasingly woven into educational systems. And civilian readiness initiatives, ranging from emergency drills to digital defense literacy, are gaining traction. But the path forward is not without complications. Estonia's eastern regions include sizable ethnic Russian populations, a legacy of Soviet-era migration policies. In these areas, public support for large-scale militarization is uneven. Questions linger about national unity, societal cohesion, and the long-term impact of a constantly heightened security posture. Latvia and Lithuania face similar demographic and political complexities. All three nations walk a tightrope, balancing the imperatives of deterrence with the equally vital need to avoid alienating segments of their own populations. Their message is resolute. This is about defending democracy, not stoking division. Internationally, the Baltic Defense Line is being watched with keen interest. Defense analysts are studying its layered tactics. Policymakers are rethinking the cost-effectiveness of deterrence strategies versus conventional force building. For smaller countries outside Europe, nations in geopolitically tense environments like Taiwan, South Korea, and parts of Scandinavia, the project offers potential inspiration. Could the Baltic model become a blueprint for smart resilience? Can deterrence built with concrete and strategy rival tanks and fighter jets? These questions linger as bunkers rise and trenches deepen. In Tallinn, Riga, and Vilnius, the sound of construction is now as common as the rhythm of daily life. Young conscripts drill beneath the shadow of new fortifications. Military convoys traverse freshly reinforced roads. Behind it all is a vision, not of war, but of the possibility of peace bought through preparedness. The Baltic Defense Line represents more than just barbed wire and bunkers. It is a statement that history has not dulled vigilance and geography has not surrendered resolve. As NATO watches and Moscow calculates, the Baltics are laying a foundation, not just for defense, but for dignity. In the age of drones and hybrid warfare, it's not just about firepower, it's about foresight. The Baltic Defense Line is more than a wall, it's a warning. So the next time you hear the word deterrence, think bunkers, think trenches, and think of a region that refuses to be caught off guard again. Subscribe for more stories where strategy meets survival, and tell us, what does defense look like in your part of the world?